for 13. Gagne, Baylor, the DH, Brunansky, Herbeck, Gagne, and Laudner.
First time that Herbeck in the slump through postseason play thus far has been out of the cleanup spot. Defensively behind Frank Tanana, pretty much the same. Whitaker's had a little sore back, almost a late scratch. Man who could be very important, Bob, the man at third base, Tom Brookins. He is hitless so far. And with Tanana, an off-speed pitcher, 8 right-handed hitters in the lineup, all except Herbeck, his glove could become very important with a soft tosser out there.
And he's already made some good defensive plays in the series. One robbing Gladden in game 1, and another yesterday throwing Davidson out at the plate. Here is Gladden. And that one floats in there. If you haven't seen Frank Tanana in a few years, the fireballer is now a finesse guy. He could hum it in the 90s when he came up to the Angels as a 19-year-old in 1973. Quickly ahead 0-2. Tanana has never been a 20-game winner. His biggest season, 1976, when he won 19, but he's been a consistent winner. This year was the 6th time he's won 15 or better. Did it hit Gladden? It did. Well, Al Clark wants to check.
Back.
Oh, no. Here we go. An argument right off the bat, and here comes Tom Kelly.
This is going to sound wild, Bob, but did I hear a little click in one of our field mics right down by the screen? Is that an impossibility? Like, it almost sounded like a batting helmet, something hard, unless somebody tapped it down by the screen. Gladden sprung out of the batter's box so quickly that you'd almost have to take his word, but Al Clark very close also may have felt it was a decoy. They are just asking Clark to ask another umpire. He does not have to. He said, I saw it myself. I don't need any help. No balls, 2 strikes was Gladden trying. Let's listen to this. See if we can hear a click. I don't know. Maybe it was my imagination. Didn't hear a thing. But he certainly is very confident the ball hit him.
And the 1-2 pitch.
Ow.
That hit him for sure. And Gladden says, all right, justice has been done. I'll take one just to prove a point.
Tanana, obviously, you talked about he is a soft tosser, trying to establish inside with the fastball. I had a chance to see the 162nd game of the year here in Detroit. Tanana threw a shutout against the Toronto Blue Jays. He struck out 9, Bob, and when I was charting the pitches, 8 of the strikeouts came with his fastball. He only got Garth Orge with a slow curve. So you think he is a junk baller, but he gets the fastball up there better than you think.
Switch hitter Al Newman hit just .221 overall, but .319 right-handed. The former Expo drops a bunt. Tanana's play is to first, score at 1-4 with Whitaker covering, and Gladden is at second with 1 out.
So Tom Kelly feels right in the first inning. Don't do it as frequently in the American League with the DH. It's in the littler ballparks. They are more big inning clubs as opposed to the National League, but apparently Kelly feels that Vile is going to give him a good outing, which is a little strange playing for 1 run this early because Reardon, Behringer, and Schatziner were worked pretty hard yesterday. He may need somebody to help out at the end for Viola.
Puckett just 1 for 13 in the series. He had a big double in game 1. Quiet since then.
You've got to watch Gladden off second base now. Off Tanana, tough to steal second because he's got a good move and a good delivery home. But Gladden may try and sneak into third.
In the dirt and blocked by Heath.
And that's the reason why. A lot of those slow curve balls, and if, like Randy Bush caught Jack Marsh, 1 look to home plate. Bush stole second and third 1 game already.
Tanana has his sign from Heath, and his 1-0 pitch to Puckett. 2-0 to Kirby, who hit .332 during the regular season with 28 homers and 99 RBIs.
His bat and Herbeck's especially have been struggling. Those are 2 very important weapons for this Twins team.
Herbeck's been dropped down to 7th against the lefty. 2-1. Tanana struggled for a while prior to the last couple of weeks of the season. Had about a half dozen terrible outings, and Sparky dropped him from the rotation for a bit. But in his last 3 starts, he's allowed only 1 earned run in his last 24 innings of work, including the 1-0 beauty to close the season. On 2-1. 3 balls and a strike.
Tanana, who will sink his fastball, come inside with a 4-seamer, change of speeds on the curve, and has an excellent straight change. After he hurt his arm after those big years with the Angels, he said, I had to start watching pitchers like Tommy John, Scotty McGregor, to learn how to pitch and use off-speed pitches.
Gladden at second, 1 out. And this ball is hit down the right field line. Herndon racing over near the 325 sign, makes the catch in foul ground, and Gladden tags and moves on to third.
Herndon playing on the bad knees. Didn't cover a whole lot of ground in a hurry, but he's got a little tricky corner with that concrete and padded out there.
Now up steps Gagne. Kelly's got him in the cleanup spot. And the numbers tell why. 3 of his 5 hits for extra bases.
Interesting to see now with speed on third base and Gladden, and a very aggressive third base coach and base runner. With Tanana, he's going to pitch from the windup, which will give him a longer lead in case he bounces a curveball. He's winding up.
And he starts him with a strike. That third base coach is Rick Rennick. Wayne Terwilliger at first.
Rennick over from Montreal. He's one of the men, along with Bob Gebhardt, scouting the San Francisco Cardinals series. They got Reardon here. It was their recommendation that got Reardon with his ball club.
1-1. Baylor on deck. Gladden was hit by a pitch. Newman sacrificed him to second, and he moved over to third on the fly out by Puckett.
Tanana trying to look Gladden back. He kept creeping up because Brookins is playing very deep, giving him a lot of room at third.
This one is popped wide of first. Evans racing after it, and it's just in the seats. Herndon was over there too.
A lot of Tanana's strength, Bob, is to now be able to use both edges of the plate. When he first became somewhat of an off-speed pitcher, he had trouble getting the ball into right-handers. That's why he went at Gladden inside very hard to try and establish him there, make him look for it so he can go back away.
The 1-2 pitch is hit into shallow left. Trammell back. Gibson in. Allen wants it, and they're out of the inning. Pitches in 7 innings plus.
Pitching on 3 days rest at the American League, a little tougher, of course, than in the National League. Remember, you're pitching to 9 hitters, and if you add those extra at-bats in the American League, for a pitcher like him, it could add up to more, almost 4 more complete ball games.
And ball 1 to Whitaker, who's 3 for 11 in the series with 3 walks.
They did not like what Tanana did to Gladden.
Tanana did it twice. Gagne in close at third, and Whitaker was pulling away as that one dropped in for a strike.
Frankie at one time a power pitcher, Frank Viola. A lot of fastballs, hard curve. Now he's got the great straight change. Changes speeds on his curveball. He usually has pretty good control. Interesting to see if they will swing at as many bad pitches off him as they did in the lighting conditions in the Dome. Remember, Detroit walked 7 times yesterday.
3-1 to Whitaker.
When you get those poor lighting conditions, you've got to pull the trigger a little sooner. And one of the strengths of this Detroit ball club is its high on base average, which they did not have in games 1 and 2. And he walks him.
So Whitaker has done the leadoff man's job. He's been to the plate 15 times in the series, and he's reached base 7 with 3 hits and 4 walks.
He has a bad instep. The last 5 innings yesterday, his back was killing him. Talking about Whitaker, Sparky had to wait right till the last before he announced his lineup to see if Lou could make it. For a bunch of treatments, he said the back loosened up, so he started.
Here's Morrison, who came over from the Pirates during the season. Change floats in there for a strike. Now that Morrison is at the plate, Sparky has used all of his non-pitchers in the series, which stands 2-1 Minnesota, and the home team has won each of the first 3 games. Had him out in front, 0-2. Some felt Viola didn't throw enough curveballs in the first game. He had the good fastball, especially early, and the straight change, which is perhaps his most effective pitch. But maybe he didn't mix in enough curves.
Well, he's the kind of pitcher can go through the lineup once or twice and maybe power you, and then he's got to start showing the other stuff. Sooner or later, he's got to use all his pitches, as you said. There's the changeup. He's thrown a couple. Does look almost like a half screwball effect, running away from right-handed hitters. Tough man to get a lead off first base. And sometimes that helps the infielder. If you don't get those extra couple of steps with the left-hander, you can't pick up the double play.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Morrison. In that first game, Viola lasted 7 innings plus 2 hitters in the 8th. Gave up 9 hits, 5 earned runs, and had a no decision as the Twins rallied to win after he left.
You know, if the Tigers don't win this game, they've got all but an impossible task. Not because they would have to win 3 in a row, but because they would have to win 2 of those 3 in Minnesota. So this, and Sparky says, we don't win this, we're not only in big trouble, we probably cannot win it.
On the other hand, if they do win it and even the series, Sparky's got his pitching in much better shape than Tom Kelly does. Not because he's outmaneuvered Kelly, but simply because he has greater depth than his starters. Kelly almost has no choice. He's really only 2 deep, Viola and Blyleven. Swing and a miss, strike 3.
Oh, he had a choice. He could have started Joe Niekro today, as Don Sutton said, and gotten Viola and the rest of the crew, Blyleven, back on their 4 days rest. What Tom Kelly thought about was, though, because this is a night game, he said he's got 3 days rest and 6 hours. And he really said this. If it would have been a day game today, I might not have started. He had those extra hours, he felt. There's Joe Niekro, who says his shoulder's just fine. He could pitch. Now, does 6 hours make that much difference? Tom Kelly seemed to think so.
If he took a very long nap. Gibson's 2 for 13 with a homer and 6 strikeouts. Ball 1. Just to clarify the point, yeah, Kelly had a choice, but he has really only 2 effective starters, Viola, Blyleven. Sparky's got 4 in Alexander, Morris, Terrell, and Tanana. Wrapped foul.
Gibson felt that he swung the bat a lot better yesterday. Didn't feel that he was trying to muscle everything. Didn't feel he had to force to try and get out in front and pull the fastball. Felt his hands were quicker. Let's see if it pays off. And he said he saw the ball much better yesterday as opposed to the first 2 days in Minnesota.
He jammed him, a little pop-up, and Gagne will take it.
The place they've tried to pitch him in the first 3 games, up and in, whether it's a right-handed pitcher or left. Big, strong guy like Gibson likes to get the hands and arms out. Most hitters do.
He purposely turned his back to the camera before venting his anger. He's wise to our game after he got in close on him in game 2.
He asked me if we could institute a 7-second delay on our show sometimes when he comes in.
Strike 1 to Trammell.
Another bat that's struggling, Trammell.
Good play by Laudner. Trammell, one of several big hitters, waiting to bust loose, like his teammate Gibson and like Puckett and Herbeck of the Twins. Trammell's hallmark was consistency during the regular year. Almost never went into a slump. Had hitting streaks of 18 and 17.
He had a great September. Heck, he was over 400 the entire month.
Whitaker walked to open the inning. He's remained anchored at first as Morrison has struck out and Gibson has popped out. The changeup is hit toward the hole. Backhanded there by Gagne, who probably should not have thrown it, but no harm done. Infield hit for Trammell.
Give you an idea of the kind of ground that Greg Gagne does cover, unnoticed in this league. And of course, it was an off-speed pitch, so he could lean right off the bat. Won't hit that hard, but shows you the amount of range he has. And you're right, he shouldn't have thrown it, but it sure looked pretty, even though he didn't get it. A little bit off the end of the bat on the off-speed pitch. You know that, you see the side, you can lean, you can have a couple of steps to your right if you're a shortstop playing in the middle of the diamond, you get the better jump.
But with all the chances you handle at shortstop, 18 is not a terribly high error total, and Gagne makes a lot of plays. Herndon with 2 on and 2 out.
He's been jumping on first pitches.
Takes that one up and in. I asked Tom Kelly before the series, who outside of the obvious guys would be the fella you'd fear the most with the Tigers. He said Herndon has always given us trouble. Double and a single yesterday, each figuring in the scoring. 2-0. You see Lemon on deck.
Just starting to overthrow just a little bit. Trying to punch Herndon out, and he gets way in the hole. See, Viola rubbing the ball down, talking to Joe Niekro, he said no umpire in the American League rubs the balls down better than Al Clark. He said he makes them so black that pitchers love the kind of baseballs, and if he gets a new bunch during the game, he'll send the kid back to rub them down again with that black dirt.
Is he swinging 3-0? Right down the middle, strike 1.
These are the kinds of situations that Viola at one time was just fastball after fastball. Now, even 3-1, he has such confidence in that change, he is liable to throw it.
Whitaker at second, Trammell at first. Full count, and they'll be off on this one.
What he can get with that pitch is hitters get over anxious at times. They say, well, I'll drive the runs in. I'm looking for a fastball. He pulls the string to get them to swing at some bad pitches out of the strike zone because of over anxiety. Now, if you're Herndon, what do you look for? You just threw you a 3-1 change, and your mind is really messed up right now. They're the kind of things that get me. The ball called on Les Straker, and you watch Viola on the mound, more of a veteran pitcher. And yeah, Straker, I guess, did balk imperceptibly, but another pitcher can stand up and rub his leg with his glove and do all kinds of silly things, and it's not a ball, although it is technically.
There go the runners. Here comes the pitch, and they're loaded for Lemon. Two walks and an infield single have Viola in hot water on a cold night.
Tom Kelly does have another net. In the event that Viola continues to stay in trouble, he can bring a right-hander, Keith Atherton in, who really did a good job for him. You just can't overuse him. And his philosophy, maybe if he gets in trouble early, gives up a few runs, maybe he would get him out and rest him for that final start if it goes 7.
Lemon 3 for 10 with a second game homer off Blyleven in the series. He's driven home 3 runs.
Herbeck sneaking behind the runner at first base, Herndon, and then pitching from the stretch.
Ball 1. They wanted to check down at first, but Mike Riley says no, he didn't swing. Jim McKean is the ump at second. Joe Brinkman at third. Right field line, Drew Coble. Left field, Durwood Merrill. And as we told you, Al Clark calling balls and strikes. Alex Gramis dances away, and the count evens at 1-1. In his 6th year with the Tigers, had some big years before that with the White Sox. Waiting on Viola's 1-1 pitch. Outside, 2-1.
When he tries to throw hard, he's riding his fastball way too high. When he tries to take a little off, it's running a little too much out of the strike. He has a very lively arm, throws hard. He's learned to pitch. And now Dick Such, pitching coach, and Kelly starting to converse a little bit.
This ball is a broken bat rolling to short. It's a tough play. Gagne unloads high, and Lemon's safe. A run scores.
Chet Lemon has been questioned as to why he dives into first base, because it doesn't seem as fast. You see right now a time when it works. If he comes in standing up, Herbeck slaps a tag on him. Maybe this way he can't come down and tag him. He was playing deeply. The ball squirts out of his glove. It's a little bit of a wet turf and cold, and the ball squirted out of his hands. It would have been close either way.
They rule it E6.
Ooh, that was a tough air to get. Wow.
Here's Evans with the bases still loaded. Nearly hit by the pitch. Without hitting the ball out of the infield, the Tigers have a run.
And Evans will take a base on ball. He'll make you throw strikes, as he did yesterday with 3 walks.
The 1-0 pitch. 2-0.
When he goes with the seams to try and run the fastball in or sink it, it's running right out of the strike zone. He's almost got too much movement.
Let's watch Lemon diving into first base to beat this one out.
Do you think the barrel of the bat may have fooled Gagne, and he didn't get a good job? We've talked during the series how agile Gagne is. Goes better to his right.
So Gagne might have been able to feel that, you're saying, in front of Gagne, and might have been an easier play for the third baseman.
Oh, yeah, he's got a 5-4 then going right toward the ball. I don't know if the barrel disrupted him or not.
Viola's got to make this a good one on 2-0. And he does. Looked like Evans was looking fastball and just took that one. 2-1. And that's the confidence. Viola able to throw the change for a strike. On 2-0 with the bases loaded. Evans pulled away, but Clark says it got the corner. It's interesting that you said some of Viola's pitches seem to have almost too much movement. That's what you would expect if a guy had extra rest, not short rest. His 2-2 pitch. Full count.
You pitch on short days rest and you're not used to it. You indicated early just 3 times. If he is a little tired, perhaps the fastball's not as hard and it gives it more time to move more. And of course, you're pitching in a different rhythm when you're on 3 days rest as opposed to the regular 4. So right now he's struggling.
And the payoff is hit softly, but Gagne is there to make the catch. He threw him a change on 3-2. And Gagne records the final putout, but his error allows an unearned run.
Yesterday, they had about 3,000 tickets left. The scalpers didn't do too well. They were giving them away, and then they were throwing them away.
Brookins in close at third. Newman sacrificed his first time up. One pitch to him. Popped it up. Brookins and Trammell on the left side. And Tom has it.
The way these 2 pitchers are going so far, even though their control's been a little bit off, there have been a lot of balls that off the end of the bat. We've seen 2 bats fly apart already. End of the bat on the fist. Don't use the middle 10 inches of the plate. When Tanana's been missing, he's been missing way out of the strike zone, not down the middle of the plate.
But when they've had their chances, the Twins haven't come through against them. They're 0 for 5 with men in scoring position already tonight. Puckett hits one to deep left on the first pitch, and Gibson watches it leave, so Kirby breaks loose. When he touches the dish, this one is tied.
He's been hitting a lot the opposite field. Even when he got some changeouts, he gets a curveball, looked like it was down and in, and to show you how strong Kirby Puckett is, looked like almost all the weight was on the front foot, but he held the bat back and just hit it very smoothly and easily. It was a breaking ball. You can see the left knee and leg cock to generate more power, help him pull the ball, and well, he's strong.
Is he ever strong? He hit one that was tape measured at 460 feet against the Red Sox this year, and last year at Yankee Stadium, as Gagne hits one to center and Lemon's going to run it down. Last year at Yankee Stadium off Joe Niekro, who's now his teammate, he hit one into the monument section at Yankee Stadium.
Wes Gardner of the Red Sox remembers the 460 home run. Threw a couple high fastballs. He got by him, and he tried to do it again. He's the spark that makes it go. And if he's hitting when Herbeck's in the cleanup spot, they have to pitch better to Herbeck if he's on base all the time. Similar situation with Gibson and Trammell. The 3-4 spots, they complement each other so.
Baylor has singles in his only 2 at-bats in the series. Last year in the playoffs for the Red Sox against the Angels, he hit .346. And he had a big 9th-inning home run in Game 5 off Mike Witt. People forget. That's what set the stage for Dave Henderson.
Got him.
Well, that's no surprise.
Tucked his shoulder right into it. Tanana can't believe it. I'm sure he's muttering to himself. He's seen it so many times. Why don't we just enforce the rule that's in the book? You've got to make an attempt to get out of the way. Now tell me this is an attempt to get out of the way.
If anything, it kind of turns into it.
You know, they've got a fella in Washington now, the commissioner of baseball, Peter Ueberroth is hired to codify the rule book, take out all the dead spots, the conflicts. He's put the entire rule book into a computer, and perhaps he'll meet with the rules committee during the offseason. He just tucks right into it. And if you're going to have rules in the book like that, you ought to call him, I guess, according to the letter of the rule.
He's been doing it year after year. Led the majors again this season, and he just keeps extending his career record, which is 255. He passed Ron Hunt for that dubious mark this season. Ball 1 to Brunansky.
Years ago, they would have called a pitcher like Frank Tanana a nibbler. Now they call him a painter.
A smash to third, but Brookins is in front of it. Goes for the force to Whitaker. But the solo homer by Kirby Puckett has evened the issue as we head for the last half of the third. Puckett by teammates and fans alike. An unearned run for Detroit in the first, a Puckett homer for the Twins in the third. Ball 1. Tomorrow at 3 Eastern Time, Doyle Alexander for the Tigers. Bert Blyleven we expect for the Twins. In the air to left. Gibson barely has to move. And Herbeck is 1 for 12 in the series. I guess it's possible if the Twins win tonight that Tom Kelly could pitch Negro tomorrow and figure, well, then I'll have Blyleven fully rested for Game 6.
At this point, he hasn't let on anybody. There's Les Straker, who pitched one of the games. Their third starter struggled yesterday, but at this point, he hasn't let on. He keeps saying Blyleven, Blyleven. Then he continues to say, why are they bugging me? I'm not going to change. He's finding out the media won't let him up.
Gagne lined hard to left his first time up. Fouls it off.
Frank Tanana now appears to be getting in the kind of groove that Frank Viola is. Viola's had 2 3-up, 3-down innings after he struggled with the 2 walks, carried by his shortstop in the first.
Changeup is hit in the air to left. Gibson starts back to the track, to the wall. It's gone. Second game in a row that Gagne is connected. Yesterday off Tero, tonight off Tanana. It's 2-1 Minnesota.
And he's found his personal hitting coach in Don Baylor. He says, yeah, Tony Oliva has some great theories. He's helped me. But some of the sessions that I've spent with Don Baylor have helped me an awful lot. Extra hitting practice yesterday, the day before on the off day. Looked like he had a pretty good pitch. Changeup was down. He kept the bat back just like Kirby Puckett did. Not unusual for this pitching staff for Detroit to give up home runs, though.
And he gets back the run. His error allowed. Here's Laudman.
Very comfortable park to hit, and if you can get it to left center or right center.
Just in the 4th game and closing in on the playoff record for combined home runs. 7 for the Twins now, 5 for Detroit.
9 with nobody aboard. which is typical of good pitchers who get hit by home runs, where there's Robin Roberts, Bert Blyleven this year, 34 solo home runs. Morris usually does it that way. Here it is, hit it. Around the plate.
3-0 pitch. He walks him. Tanana has walked 3 and hit 2 batters.
And he just a short conference halfway out, but that may start the bullpen going for Sparky Anderson. As he indicated before the ball game, if we don't win this baby, it may be impossible to win 2 in Minnesota.
We'll see what happens in the later innings. Petrie's getting up. Dan Petrie for the Tigers. And a ball in the dirt to Gladden. But so far, this is the least boisterous crowd of the 4 games. This is about as quiet as we felt it. Either in Minnesota, where it was an absolute madhouse, or here yesterday, where they went nuts as the Tigers first went in front, then blew the lead, and ultimately came back on Sheridan's homer in the 8th.
My head and ears needed at least a few days relief after those wild fans in Minnesota. Has there ever been that much excitement in the ballpark?
Oh, I imagine now and then, but it was up there. I wonder what it sounded like in the Polo Grounds when Bobby Thompson connected that day. One and 2. 1 out, 1 on. And a bouncer to the left side. Brookins backs up. He gets the force, and that's all. So Laudner is exchanged for Gladden, and in that sense, the Twins come out ahead.
Something that I found incredible when you look through the numbers. The Minnesota Twins have won just 9 games on the road since the All-Star game. Does that sound impossible? It's there, black and white. It's hard to believe.
They played a game under 500 after the break, but of course 5 of those losses, all on the road, came in succession after they had clinched the division and had nothing to play for. Good spot for Gladden to run. Get in scoring position for Newman, and if he's thrown out, you get Newman, who has speed to lead off the next inning. Not going. Check swing bouncer to Brookins. That'll do it. But Gagne's homer has given the Twins the lead. And we go to the last half of the 4th at Tiger Stadium.
But I think the man that he wanted to look right in the eye was the guy that you see in the corner of your picture, Don Baylor, who brought some of the Charlie Lau theories of hitting, the flat bat, start the approach down, the good head discipline. So he's found his guru in Don Baylor.
Herndon against Viola.
Dead pull hitter and pitch him purposely way inside. They used to do it to Yogi Berra. This just curls foul. Hit a ton by Evans. This man took a big salary cut with the free agency situation during the offseason.
Puckett, the starter in the 5th. He ditched the doldrums with a homer his last time up. He'd been 1 for 14 before that. And this one might drop in. Herndon can't get there. And now he botches the ball, and Puckett will be at least at second, maybe third. Here he goes. It'll be a single and 2-base error.
I don't think I've ever seen a base runner cut the bases as sharply as Kirby Puckett. I mean, he just squared him off, so it gets hung up a little bit in the mush, and with the bad knees, that is the turf that is torn out after the celebration. Another big patch after the Sunday clincher. There are some guys maybe faster than he is, but he really turned it on and wasted little ground, rounding the bag out in short right and short left.
The Tigers play the infield back for Gagne. Puckett at third, nobody out. this ball will get a run home. Puckett back to tag. Gibson in the gap. Makes the catch. There's no play. Kirby cruises home. It's 3-1.
Like one other ball earlier, Gagne's line drive that he got. It looked like Baylor was going to be doubled off earlier in the ball game. It looked this time like Gibson lost something in the lights again. He starts in and then he angles back to left center field. He wasn't going to throw Puckett out anyway, but the ball almost squirted out of his glove.
Baylor facing his old teammate from the '79 Western Division champion Angels. Baylor was the league's MVP that year.
And you can see a little bit in this. We talked about Puckett and Herbeck both in the slump coming into this ball game, so they move Herbeck out and put a hotter hitter, Gagne, behind Puckett, and then Puckett gets a little bit better pitches, perhaps. And Gagne, and it'll show you what Tom Kelly's made of. He is not afraid to make moves that might hurt the egos of his ball club. He said, I tried it. Good part of the year, he said. I just stopped screwing around because I knew I couldn't please everybody.
Tanana's ahead of Baylor 1-2. And a fastball just misses inside. In that 1979 season, Tanana had one start in the playoffs, worked 5 innings against the Orioles. So he's not exactly new to postseason competition. Brookins will have time with Baylor, and he guns him down.
Evans is one. Terry Harper started in left field for this ball, but he's gone. Rolando Mercado, one of the catchers.
1-0. 2-0.
During a regular season game, Sparky Anderson would go a long ways with Frank Tanana because his team produces runs. But when you're in the situation he is right now, down by a game, trailing by 2 runs, the possibility, if you want to go any further, you better start thinking of getting Petrie in there early with his strong right-handed hitting lineup. Petrie pitched very well out of the bullpen for a long stretch after struggling as a starter early.
He walks Bernansky on 4 pitches.
The other hand Sparky knows is bullpen has caused a lot of conflagrations.
Plus trouble. You wonder about the playing backgrounds of the 2 managers. Sparky spent 1 year in the majors. That's a strike to Herbeck. He committed himself. He hit .218 with the 1958 Phillies. And Kelly was up with the Twins for a cup of coffee in '75. Career minor leaguers who went on to become good managers. Sparky might rank among the all-time greats when all is said and done, and Kelly certainly appears to be a very promising young manager.
Both listen to old heads. Sparky still talks about Al Lopez, what he taught him. Lefty Phillips, Charlie Dressen.
Tanana dropping down on that one to Herbeck. 1-2. And of course, Ralph Houck has had quite an influence of late on Tom Kelly.
And on this man's team is Ralph Houck that brought the Trammels and Whitakers and Parishes and Morrises and Petries up. Ralph Houck, part of his team is what John McNamara won last year in the American League with the Red Sox. You know, I wonder if Herbeck isn't bothered by his injury more at bat than defensively. He's got that, it's like almost in lower abdomen or something, and real deep near the left hip. He tries to stretch it. And not to make an excuse for him, but I think it's bothering him swinging a little bit.
Hit hard but foul. Is it possible that the Tigers are pitching Herbeck differently than they did during the regular season when he wore them out? Their advanced scout for this series, Boots Day, maybe he did a good job.
Could be. Usually old head pitchers like you've got on the mound, they don't go with any one pattern or scouting reports. They're going to pitch their own game, what's working for them that particular day, what they've got out of the bullpen. guess Tanana's throwing over. He may be throwing over thinking that they will send Bermansky, even though he's not a base stealer, because he's got Herbeck in a hole, 1 ball and 2 strikes. And if he gets thrown out, Herbeck gets a fresh start.
2-2. Herbeck is the only left-handed batter, Newman a switch hitter, in the lineup tonight. And thus just about the only guy Tanana drops down to the side against. Evans is standing by the bag as he flags it down. And now Herbeck is 1 for 13 in the series. But the Twins lead this game 3-1, trying to lead the series by the same margin. Starts it in the last half of the 5th. Here's Gladden in left. 1 out.
Jumping on the first pitch like that, you know it was a good one. He's just trying to get ahead. You're giving him more and more of a chance to have easy innings.
Now it's Heath, who's 2 for 6 in the series. Those 2 hits were off Viola, a homer and a single in game 1.
11 in a row set down by Frank Viola. Might have been 12 if not for the error.
One to Heath. In addition to the normal concern about working on 3 days rest, if that's not your usual pattern, Kelly is well aware that Viola had a tender shoulder in late August, early September. Toward the hole, but to his left is Gagne. He made only 11 errors this season, in addition to all the spectacular plays that might earn him a 2nd consecutive Gold Glove.
And it'll change a pitcher's pattern to have this kind of defense behind you. You don't feel you've got to strike everybody out. You can turn the ball over as he just did again. Get the ground balls when you have confidence of the Gagnes, the Gagnes, Herbeck's glove, and either Lombardo's or Newman. They're both good fielders. You get the ball in the air here, you've got Kirby Puckett to run it down. Very underrated defense, this Minnesota Twins.
As we've mentioned, they made the fewest errors in the league this year at 98. The Tigers were kind of in the middle of the pack. They booted 122. Thought about a bunt, takes it up and in.
I don't think there's any question. Overall defense, if a Tony Fernandez is healthy, is the Toronto Blue Jays with their team speed and their throwing arms. Minnesota Twins might rank second to them because they cover a lot of ground also. Some teams may make fewer errors than those two, but they're kind of lumbering people that don't get too many baseballs.
Morrison is on deck as the count runs to 3-0 on Whitaker. And that's a strike. Come on back. We have seen that in both the National and American League Series repeatedly. At the knees and right over the heart of the plate.
And Laudner gave it a little lift up, about 3-4 inches.
And now he's got the walk.
String of 12 consecutively is broken. You know, we keep talking, I guess we're belaboring it at this point. The pitching on 3 days rest. After the first shaky inning where he walked 2, Viola's in a groove now where they can't get any of the good part of the bat on the ball at all. He's just had excellent stuff since he's got the strike zone down now. He is very strong. He now has over 250 innings pitched for the season, but he's always been somewhat of a horse. And maybe better now than a couple of years ago when everything he tried to throw was hard, where he had to just generate all his energy and stuff where he might have gotten worn down. And now he's in a groove where he's just saying, here it is. And he's got such good sinking action.
Morrison hits one hard and through. That's their first clean hit. Whitaker stops at second. The tying runs are aboard.
It's one of the few pitches he's gotten up in the strike zone in a couple of couple of innings, unless he wanted to throw it upstairs. Spark had a long talk with Jim Morrison before the ball game. When they got him, he really didn't produce a lot, didn't get a chance to play because Madlock was swinging the bat well.
One of Gibson's 2 hits is a first-game homer off Viola. This will be Frank's 79th pitch. We're in the 5th. Tiger Stadium has come alive.
Notice he didn't give Gibson one of those sinking fastballs down low in the strike zone because he's a good low ball hitter. He went with a little more heat and tried to keep it belt high or above. One and one. It's one of the few pitches he's gotten up in the strike zone in a couple of innings, unless he wanted to throw it upstairs. Spark had a long talk with Jim Morrison before the ball game. When they got him, he really didn't produce a lot, didn't get a chance to play because Madlock was swinging the bat well.
One of Gibson's 2 hits is a first-game homer off Viola. This will be Frank's 79th pitch. We're in the 5th. Tiger Stadium has come alive.
Notice he didn't give Gibson one of those sinking fastballs down low in the strike zone because he's a good low ball hitter. He went with a little more heat and tried to keep it belt high or above. One and one.
Trammell is on deck. Whitaker at second, Morrison at first. 2 outs, last of the 5th. 3-1 Twins. Off-speed pitch, and he was out in front of it.
Gibson swinging at some bad pitches, isn't he? That ball almost would have hit him if he hadn't gone after it. No way he could have put that in play in third territory high. As long as he keeps swinging at which he did in the first 2 games, they're going to keep throwing it to him. A big, strong guy like this wants to get himself out. He's doing you a favor.
Now Gibson steps out. Again. This isn't hit well, but it might be in there. Newman dives and can't get it. And worst of all for the Twins, it bounces away. So they have no play anywhere. Whitaker scores. Morrison goes to third. Newman had a chance to keep that ball in the infield, not to make a play on Gibson, but to smother it so that the bases would be loaded.
The ball really fooled him off the bat. It was right where Viola wanted it. He shattered Gibson's bat, but it had a very severe English that kept spinning, and the ball kept going away from Newman. And then it squibbed in the ground and got by him. Watching the pitches right where he wants it. Out of the strike zone, up. Hits it up on the trademark, and Newman was frozen by it. It almost started like it was right at him, and then it kept curving away.
I thought for a second with Puckett playing very deep and with Gibson's speed, he might leg it to second on that one. As it is, they've given Trammell a chance to tie it. Or maybe more if he really gets hold of one.
These are the situations in Viola's past with a base hit like that, a little scribble when he made the perfect pitch that would rattle him. And you could see just that first pitch. He tried to overthrow again and is out of the strike zone. That's where Laudner can come in to help him to cool him down. Overthrowing again.
2-0 with Herndon waiting next. Kelly reaches for a chaw. Viola reaching back for something extra. In the dirt. 3-0. Could be swinging, but that one wasn't good enough to take a rip at. On the inside edge, 3-1.
Viola didn't let up. He had to lose something out in case Trammell was. This guy's become a great pitcher, really. He's got a big out to get right now, though.
And they're loaded up.
It's interesting how he trusted his defense, throwing the sinker ball and changeup, and was getting ground ball outs, and as soon as the squib hit came, he went to the other fastball and away from the stuff that he was getting guys out with. And that's where I really think, and Laudner hasn't done it yet. There comes Dick Schuch. That's where you need a catcher to go out. When you see the squibber and you read that your pitcher may have been getting a little too emotional and want to blow hitters away, you can save a trip out.
All of this after 2 out. Whitaker walked. Morrison hit the ball hard through the left side. Gibson did not hit the ball well. Is that Atherton getting up?
Atherton, yes it is.
Herndon hurt the Twins yesterday.
4 walk given up by Viola.
Larry had a 2-run double and a single ahead of Sheridan's homer. Foul back.
He loves that first pitch, especially if it's a fastball. Around again. And with the 2-base there out in right field by Herndon, he's got a chance to redeem himself. Two and one. One of the things about being a veteran team as the Tigers are, as opposed to the youth and inexperience and postseason play of the Twins, you don't let leads rattle you. You don't get over anxious. You take bases on balls. Sparky's kept that kind of mellow attitude with his team. Banana coming down and said a couple of things. Asked Al Clark where it was, outside or low, and Clark went to his left knee. Viola did, and Clark said below the knees, and he pointed. Had the outside corner, but too low. Herndon steps out. And that'll let the din build a little more. Morrison at third, Gibson at second, Trammell at first. 3-2 Twins. 2 out on the 3-1 pitch. Swing and a miss. Now, of course, everybody takes off. Trammell runs well.
He might score all the way from first if Herndon delivers an extra base hit.
Morrison at third won't leave too soon. He doesn't want to get in the vision or disrupt Morrison, or rather Herndon's concentration.
Ripped right into Gagne's glove. That ball was scorched. They score one and leave them loaded.
The first game, we talked about Gagne's great range to his right, which enabled him to play well off the foul line. Well, he gets a bullet hit right at him. Look at the space between Gagne's right shoulder and the foul line. A lot of guys might have played closer. It might have sneaked through. What a weird inning that was. Gibson barely gets one to the outfield grass, a squibber, and there's a bullet, and it's an out.
Gagne has hit the ball hard twice, lining to left and homering. Two balls and a strike. And here's another shot. In for possible extra bases. He rounds first as Gibson fields it. They know he doesn't have a strong arm. It's a double.
If you don't like Greg Gagne as a baseball player, you don't like anything. Even when he's not hitting, he's so aggressive. He made that like Pete Rose made those 40 double seasons right out of the batter's box. He knew Gibson had not only a weak throwing arm, it was to his glove side. He had a pirouette all the way around. But he burst out of the batter's box and thought double right from that first step. Look at how he rounds it off. Takes up a little room going to first base so he could have a beeline from first to second. Laudner might be bunting, excuse me.
He's not. He takes a ball, trying to add to a 3-2 lead. The Twins have a man at second with nobody out.
He's going to try and shoot the ball the other way. And so many times a man like Laudner, who is basically a pull hitter, knowing he has trouble hitting the ball right field, will push the ball or bunt on his own.
1-1. 3 runs, 5 hits, and an error for the Twins. 2-3-1 for the Tigers. Petrie in the bullpen. Key man as a starter in 1984 when they won the world title. He's had injury problems since. Off-speed pitch bounces away from Heath, and Gagne's taken off. He's in there. He never hesitated.
Oh, what a great walking lead. Didn't need a coach. He is a very impressive young player. He read that pitch out of Tanana's hand. Saw it's going to be a breaking ball from his vantage point. Saw the break. Heath did all he could. Got down, kept the glove down. He had a walking lead and just burst in there. It didn't go that far from him, but Gagne made it. Now the infield's forced in by Gagne's alert base running.
Scored a wild pitch. And here's Brookins fielding it, looking Gagne back and taking care of Laudner.
A very valuable little guy. We talked about Darnell Coles, who Sparky Anderson, when he started Coles down there, Coles had all the years. Then he got injured, got booed a lot here, and they finally sent him off. He wasn't going to play anymore here. But last year, Sparky Anderson talked about Coles being his 5th place hitter. He drove in over 80 runs last year. But Brookins just keeps popping back up year after year, doesn't he?
Infield in for Gladden. That's a strike. Tonight, Dan's been hit by a pitch, struck out, and grounded to Brookins.
When a guy winds up, it's always a little easier to pull a squeeze play. Minnesota doesn't do it very often.
It didn't roll away far enough.
And you see the squeeze play so infrequent in this league, the big inning league, as opposed to the National League.
And the two teams we're seeing in the playoffs over in the other league, Roger Craig with the Giants, Whitey Herzog with the Cardinals, they'll squeeze all day and night. Play a different style in the American League. Both these clubs top 200 homers. On 0-2. He hit him again. The last thing he had in mind. Well, what a weird game.
No balls, 2 strikes. He's trying to get the ball to pop him up or strike him out. And I believe we might see a pinch hitter here now already for Al Newman. Oh, what a deftly pitch for him.
The third hit batter for Tanana. He's also thrown a wild pitch, and he's walked 3. Make it 4. He's walked 4 tonight. Control's supposed to be the name of his game.
So now the switch hitter, Gene Larkin's going to come up. Pinch hit. Larkin with a couple of 100 RBI seasons in the minor leagues. DH'd a lot. Then they got Baylor. He filled in DHing quite a bit. Bush against right-handed pitchers. Going over the scouting reports, what they're doing on Larkin. They have not seen a whole lot of him, so Heath went out, knew the report, how to pitch, and then they conversed and said how they're going to play him. Straight away to pull, what they're going to try and get him out with. And Trammell now looking in, seeing, what do you want to do, Sparky? Move back in the middle for the double play or stay in, and he's moved him back for the double play now.
This will be Larkin's first at-bat in the series. Now Roy Smalley is the only non-pitcher Tom Kelly hasn't used. 2 on, 1 out. Tell you what, Heath has really earned his keep in this series behind the plate. Remember the tough time he had with Morris in game 2. He must have blocked a half-dozen potential wild pitches. He saved Tanana a few times tonight. 1 has gotten away. Hard shot, extra base hit by the diving Brookins. 1 run in. And they'll have runners at second and third as Larkin comes through with a pinch hit double. Well, he didn't take long to make his presence felt.
Wonder, Sparky thought, you look at the numbers, Larkin hitting much higher from the right side than the left. He's a switch hitter. Sparky had brought Petrie in. He would have turned around, and of course from the left side would have been tougher to double him up from the right. Tanana can hold the runner a little bit closer to first base, so the factors in there. Sparky decided.
Who has flied to right, homered, and singled. Petrie trying to keep it close. First base open, but Gagne on deck. It's the first one to Brookins. It's a fair ball. The runner's hold, and he throws him out.
Not the easiest play when the ball went over the runner at third base.
Tell you what, Brookins is 0 for 11 at the plate, but he has been flawless in the field.
This is the kind of pitching staff you get a lot of opportunities at third. Morris's fork ball, Tanana's off-speed stuff, Terrell's sinker ball, Doyle Alexander with his off-speed pitches. Minnesota team in the first 3 games has got a lot of big 2-out base hits. Gagne got one yesterday to right field, a drive in 2 after they intensely walked Herbeck. They've really come through in the clutch in these first 3 games with 2 outs.
Gagne 0 for 2 with a sac fly. Swing and a miss. Dan Petrie won 15 or more 4 consecutive years for the Tigers between 82 and 85. With a high of 19 victories in 83, and then he went 18 and 8 the next year.
No ball, 2 strike hit by pitch by Tanana came back to haunt him.
Slow roll at Trammell. The Twins will settle for 1 as Petrie comes in and gets them out of the jam. already stranded 9. The Tigers got 1 run in the first and 1 in the 5th and left the bases loaded against Viola in each of those innings. In between, in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, he retired the side in order. Lombardozzi is the new second baseman. And Lemon takes a strike.
And Tom Kelly has a little soft tossing going on in the bullpen in case Frank Viola peters out on him, although he threw the first 2 pitches very, very hard. When a manager, and there's Keith Atherton again, just soft tossing in case he gets in trouble. He'd like to get an inning or 2 from him, and he still, I believe, would close with Reardon if it got that far. Tom Kelly didn't just make the decision on his own to go with a 3-day rest rotation now. He went to Dick Such, looked at all the pitching charts, how many pitches thrown, how hard were the pitches he threw, what teams he pitched against, how many times he pitched for 3 before. Then he went to Viola and said, what do you think? And he said he could do it.
Lemon swung at what might have been ball 4.
If a pitcher doesn't believe in it, I don't care what you tell him, he's not going to do it.
I guess it might have been ball 4 if there had been a 3-ball count before that. But since I misread it, it's 2-2. And now it's 4. That was Viola's 100th pitch. And the payoff to Lemon. Hit into center field. Puckett coming on. Won't get there. Leadoff single. Dick Trzewiski greets him down at first. Evans with 34 this year is the tying run at the plate.
The 4 for 11 isn't a true indicator, though, with all the bases on balls he's taken to keep things going.
A broken bat blooped down the right field line. In there. Lemon speeds to 3rd. Runners at the corners. Nobody out. Is that it? Third, he's just a kid having fun.
Now with Atherton on, they're going to pinch hit for Tom Brookins
with Dave Bergman.
Regular season, Atherton 7-5, ERA about 4.5. Walked a little too many. His home runs to innings pitched a little too high, but Tom Kelly said when he's used right, he was very effective. He found out you couldn't pitch him too many days in a row.
Bergman had a sac fly as a pinch hitter in game 1. Ball 1 high.
This crowd's got to be a little nerve-wracking right now. It's a man with his appearance in this situation on the road. A veteran hitter like Bergman can pull the ball.
Which he does down the right field line. It's not very deep there. Foul ball.
Now, don't let that 325 sign fool you in the right field corner. Just above it, you don't have to hit it so far. It's the famous overhang. I guess about 10 feet out over into the playing field. This when you think you got a chance to make a catch on a high fly ball, the upper deck catches it.
(4-2) Twins, last half of the 6th. Tiger runners at 1st and 3rd. Nobody out. Bergman batting for Brookins. Opposite 3-1. Lemon scores. Evans stops at second. 3 straight singles for Detroit.
David, a slider up in the strike zone, went the other way with it. What they are talking about, I believe, with nobody out, with Heath up, Sparky's not going to put Lokes up right now. They're talking about the different possibilities, the bunt situation, what they're going to do. Will they go for the sure out at first, try to go around the horn, double play? Will Gagne come over with a slow runner, Evans at second base, Gagne charge, and Gagne come over to third base? Telling you that he bunts.
Which he's going to do, but he takes outside.
The rotation was the normal rotation. Third baseman holds his spot, lets Herbeck and Atherton take charge, and short to second, second to first. See if they now, with signs from Gagne touching the bill of his cap, if they have a different rotation to try and get a slow runner in Evans. Sparky may fool it all. They start moving too soon. He may have Heath decoy a bunt and chop the ball through, and we'll find out.
Squares around and takes low. Working to Heath. 3-0. Whitaker on deck. Just taking, and there it is. 3-1.
Now the Minnesota defense has got to make some decisions in a hurry. They're looking at Tom Kelly, flash signs to Gagne. 3-1. He could be swinging all the way, and yet they've still got to cheat it enough and shade toward the middle, and that he does bunt. Gagne shading toward the middle, holding the runner.
And he drops a bunt, and it's a good one. Gagne bare hands and throws him out with Lombardozzi covering. Heath moves the tying run to third, the go-ahead run to second with 1 out.
Couldn't have executed better, could he? Made Gagne feel it, made him leave his position, so he couldn't get a slow runner going in the third. Gagne and Herbeck will come in at the corners for Lou Whitaker. Now, Kelly is signaling Gagne to go out to Atherton to buy some time for Berenguer.
But Al Clark will have none of it. He's coming out to the mound to say, come on, let's work. Berenguer, meanwhile, heats up. That's what Kelly had in mind.
When he put his act down, which Tom Kelly said he didn't like, Berenguer was asked to go apologize, and yesterday Sparky pulled a little gamesmanship. After after the players were introduced, he asked Tom Kelly if he could do it. He walked over to the first base foul line, put his arms around Berenguer and said, "Son, I forgive you," etc., etc. But he was playing a game knowing that in front of this crowd, Berenguer dare not do what he did in Minnesota. And he thinks it may take a little bit of his enthusiasm, maybe some of his speed away.
Berenguer struck out 5 of the first 6 men he faced in this series. He could use the strikeout here.
Tight at the corners.
Throw to third. Out! They got Evans! Oh, and it doesn't happen often to an experienced base runner like Darrell.
It was a play that was called. I would almost guess that when Kelly went out, he said, "Look, let's try it. It may get us out of a deep hole." So he had a time play on with a certain pitch. Laudner to Gagne. You can see Gaille's moving almost before the ball left his hand. It was close, but I believe he just nipped him.
Evans is not fast, but he is an excellent heady base runner. A 40-year-old player, a veteran, man in a tight spot. I doubt that that has happened to him.
Joe Brinkman, the third base umpire, had a helmet come out of the dugout. Don't know if it was Evans or somebody else's. In regular season, that would be an ejection.
Now they need a hit from Whitaker to tie the game.
What a play by Laudner and Gagne.
Wow. And now this one gets away. And down to third trots Bergman. But with 2 out. This is going to haunt Evans if the Tigers lose this game by a run. The team leader. Look at the anguish on his face.
I saw the replays from 2 different angles, and it looked from one like he just barely touched him. Then you saw it from left center field, and the swipe by Gagne was very close. There's going to be an argument either way, and I really couldn't tell from either replay. Looked like he just had him on one. But it should never have been that close. Not in the situation here, and you should never stray, especially a veteran player, that far to make it that close.
He had nothing to gain by doing so.
He was in sacrifice fly territory.
Whitaker now walks for the 3rd time tonight. The earlier pitcher scored a wild pitch against Berenguer. Morrison to the plate. Sparky might have had the Twins on the run until Laudner gunned Evans down. Strike 1 to Morrison, who's 1 for 3. A single his last time up. Speed pitch.
2 in a row. He hadn't thrown that. It looked more like a little slider, breaking ball. It wasn't the fork ball. He uses the fork ball more to left-handed hitters. So when they're sitting on heat, which he showed them in Minnesota, and his appearance here, he's snapping off some breaking stuff.
Here's the 0-2. Another breaking ball inside. Bergman at third, Whitaker at first. 2 out and a run home in the 6th. 4-3 Twins. Center field, Puckett has to go back, and that does it. I can't get over it, but imagine how Evans feels. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Rosenberg had this from about 4 different angles. We'll show you one. It's a called play. Wasn't a pitch out, but it was away. Gagne with a great slap tag just as he hits him on the right side, and you can see it's by a couple of inches. Another reason you can tell, Bob, it's a called play because Gagne had alerted Joe Brinkman, the umpire, which they always want you to do. And they come over and say, look, during the game, if you can, in a pickoff situation, let me know. Late Nestor Shylock used to tell us that. And he was right on the play, Joe Brinkman, with a great call.
The error that was charged to Gagne in the first was on a slow roller by Lemon, where he had to make a nearly perfect play to get him, and he threw high and pulled Herbeck off the bag.
Petrie pretty much is stuck with sliders to the right-handed hitters. This squibs off the end of the bat.
Thus far, Petrie has done his job, which was to hold the fort, give his team a chance to come back. He came on with 1 out in the 6th after Larkin's pinch hit double and made it 4-2 and chased Tanana. Has retired 6 in a row. Evans boots it, picks it up, might have time. Nope.
Out of position, as you mentioned earlier, and of course the arm is gone. DH some. Played first base today. It's almost a shame to see Evans, who at one time was a very sure-handed and a good throwing arm at third baseman, the place he was at, San Francisco, Atlanta. When he first came here, he's still a left-hander, but not at his age now.
Third error of the night. 2 for the Tigers. 1 for the Twins through the first 3 games. Each team had committed only 1 error. Gladden's 0 for 2 and has twice been hit by a pitch. It bounces away from Heath. And you should have seen the look on his face as he took off his mask. He has been down and dirty almost throughout the series. He can't save his pitchers every time.
There have been a lot of things falling apart for this Tiger team today. Tanana pitching from behind, struggling along. Evans getting picked off the air. A couple home runs. Wild pitch now, and yet the Chavaliers they've played, it shows what happens to the Minnesota Twins on the road. They just don't seem to be able to take advantage of all the base runners they've had and the mistakes the Tigers have made so far tonight. I would think, Bob, that when you have the worst road record in the game, have won only 9 games on the road since the All-Star break, there's always something in the back of your mind as if you're waiting for something to happen. They just, for some reason, Tom Kelly can't get them over the hump on the road. To this point, he sure wish he'd find a way tonight.
Two and 0 to Gladden. On the other hand, the Tigers certainly haven't fully seized their opportunities either. This could be about an 8-7 game. Instead, 4-3 Minnesota.
After 162, the bats get a little heavier. The pressure gets pretty extreme, and anytime the pressure gets to what it is in these postseason games, it affects hitters, I believe, more than pitchers who are in constant action.
2-2.
Just gets tougher to hit.
Good left fielder and leadoff man, he replaced Mickey Hatcher as the clubhouse prankster. He keeps them all loose. Slow roller to second. Whitaker will throw him out. Moving on to third is Lautner with 2 down.
mean they needed another prankster with Herbeck, Bernansky, the wrestling twins?
Well, he got both of us before the first game with the old shaving cream on the phone trick.
Who got you?
Gladden got me.
Nick Reddick got us both, the third base coach, and blamed Gladden.
That's the first I learned of the true culprit.
They got Harlan Kilmer right after they got us.
Telephone call from Mr. Kubek. Move that baby to your ear. And it's that sophisticated kind of humor that
yes.
That David Niven touch that we all appreciate.
Whoopee cushions and hand buzzers.
You got it. Lombardozzi for his first at-bat.
Evans got to be careful in third. If he tries to drop the bunt down, Evans is creeping in. Try and score that run.
Does not want to face Puckett. He wants to decide it and finish it right here with Lombardozzi.
Heath keeps looking into the dugout, which may be an indication that in this situation, Sparky wants to call pitches.
Over to the Tiger dugout. Billy Muffet, the pitcher coach, is next to Sparky. Lombardozzi will be taking, and that's a strike. Laudner has gotten as far as third, courtesy of an Evans error, a Petrie wild pitch, and an advancing ground out. Twins don't have a hit off Petrie yet. Now they do, and there's another one. Brookins might have fielded.
There was a bullet, but it just went underneath the glove. Again, Evans creeping in, playing shallow, because you saw what has happened to his throwing arm. Couldn't throw across the diamond after he knocked Laudner's ball down, even though Laudner very slow running. And so he has to play shallow because of his arm. And the ball was on him much more quickly.
It's ruled a hit, but it's a pretty safe bet that had Brookins been the third baseman, this would have been an uneventful inning. Ball one to Puckett. So a little breathing room for the Twins. 5-3. Puckett's 2 for 4 with a homer and a single. This can be a very cruel game. Darrell Evans had a remarkable season at the age of 40. No one at that age has ever hit as many home runs, or since 1900 driven in as many runs as Evans did this year, and a leader on the ball club. But tonight has been a nightmare. Picked off third when he represented the tying run with just one out, and 2 balls that a better, younger third baseman probably would have handled in this inning, as the Twins get an insurance run. And because first and last impressions linger, it's possible people will remember that about Darrell Evans if the Tigers don't win this playoff, and longer than they remember all the great moments he gave them this summer.
And with a 24-man roster, you can't keep the pinch runner or the defensive specialist, which may have come in handy if you got 25 like they had a couple of years ago. That's back to Al Newman, who's played on so many positions. He's a one-man gang.
Up the middle, Whitaker backhands it, has to go to first, and gets Puckett. A terrific play by Whitaker. Evans is the second batter in the bottom of the 8th. A chance to atone, especially if they can put a man aboard ahead of him. Pitch away from making Evans the time. Wrap it up.
Bob, from all indications, and he told people time and time again before the ball game, I said Blyleven, and it's Blyleven. And he says, why you keep asking me? Now, maybe it'll happen, but I don't think so. It's going to be Blyleven. The man told us that. But well, I would think, and I can see your reasoning, why wouldn't Tom Kelly try and give Bert that extra rest? He knows he's going to have at least 2 that Sparky's going to have to win in that dome where they've got the best record in baseball.
All right, sake of argument, let's say that it is Blyleven tomorrow. And the Twins lose the game, and they go back with a 3-2 edge. And this is also assuming they win here tonight. It's all very speculative. In the 6th game, with Viola ready on 3 days rest, is it Straker or might he pitch Niekro?
Straker, and then Viola if it goes 7. He could change, but
if we see
very adamant. He said, I just don't, we're too short. He said, I've been struggling to get a 3rd starter, Straker, let alone searching around for a 4th starter who's struggling with a knuckleball at the end, Joe Niekro.
So if we see Niekro at all, it would be in relief. And that, you think, is unlikely. A strike on the outside corner to Gagne, who will be followed by Baylor and Brunansky in the 9th. And now Al Clark wants to see the baseball from Petrie. I tell you, the Twins really have no pitching depth in the starting department. Their team earned run average of 4.63 is the highest ever for a first-place team. Not just in divisional history, but since 1900. Reardon is ready.
Again, like he did yesterday, he stopped loosening them very early. Apparently, it's just the way he likes to do it. No outs in this inning. If he's coming in, he's going to be there, and then they go out and just get his few warm-up pitches in this cool night.
Evans with another chance on the short hop. That was a good play.
See him cheating in just a little bit again. Short hop it. Gagne topping the ball, doesn't get a good jump out of the box. You know, Gagne, we're talking about people playing with injuries. We've mentioned Herbeck. We mentioned some other people. But Gagne's been playing with a little damaged hands also and trying to play right through it. It goes with playing 162 games and the endurance contest baseball's become.
As we've said repeatedly, the worst road record of any division or pennant winner ever. The highest team ERA for a winner ever. Baylor hits it softly into right. Kirby makes the catch, 2 out. If the Twins pull this off, it'll be one of baseball's biggest upsets, no doubt about it, against the team that won more games than any other in baseball this year. 13 more than the Twins did. Brunansky takes a ball. To put it in perspective, Viola, tonight's starter, with that excellent ERA of 2.90, the league's second best. They had nobody else under 4 on the entire staff.
Oh, we've talked so much about the Twins' lack of ability to hit on the road, but we always forget their incredible record at home and how difficult it is for teams coming in together. And it's just, they know, and the comfort thing they have is they know they've got at least one game that they can win there, and if they win this one, they just got to feel that Sparky cannot go in there with his ball club and win 2. to sweep it.
Another chance for Evans. Picks it up. Bergman can't make the tag.
I think he missed first base. I think when he tried to avoid the tag, he jumped right over the first base bag, and that's why Bergman stepped on the bag and said, hey, he hadn't touched it yet. He didn't get there. So even though he argued first that he tagged him, even if he hadn't, it looked like he leapt right over the bag, and Mike Riley, the first base umper, was watching the tag. So he couldn't be watching the tag up high, and Spivey said, okay, now let's get somebody who's got a better angle. Second base umpire, Jim McKean, or Hope to tell. He said, you can't watch both. Watching upstairs for the tag, you can't be watching whether you touch the bag. Somebody's better help you. He's going to ask him to ask somebody else. Clark gets Mike Heath away to keep things down. He said, you'd always reason, well, were we watching the bag or were we watching the tag? Here it is. Pulls him off.
Got him on the knee, it looked like. But
I don't know if he did. Now, here's the thing. Watch this. He missed the bag by a foot, and now Bergman stepped on the bag. The man's out. The second base umpire really, when he's not being asked, Riley's saying, I saw it. So if Riley wanted to and to get it right, he should have asked the second base umpire, who probably had a better view. You see it here.
Well, Bergman's 100% right. If he didn't tag him, and he might have.
Now watch Bergman. Sees when he's looking down right at the bag value, and now he says he missed it. Now, Riley's saying you missed the tag, and he cannot in any way watch both. Watch 5 feet above the ground and at the ground level.
Brunansky knew he missed the bag, too. Sure. He immediately started back to try and retouch.
Yeah.
Well, Petrie leaves with the left-handed hitter Herbeck do, and they'll bring in Thurman to pitch to him. The play, unfortunately, is scored E5.
Mark Thurman has been a lost man really since the end of the season. For a while, Sparky talked about making his left-handed closer. Here it is again from another angle. Bergman drawn off the bag as the throw tails. Bergman knows he missed the tag. He doesn't argue at all. He's saying, you missed the bag. This is one of those where I think Mike Riley should have asked. And another umpire can't come in and say, well, yeah, he missed it. I don't know why. If it's that obvious, another umpire ought to be able to go in there and say, look, let's get it right. Let's have a 4-man conference. Did any of us see it a different way? And that would be the right way to do it. And I got to believe, I don't know if Al Clark, I think he could see it. He's looking right down the line. Jim McKean in second could have certainly seen it, perhaps from his angle. So they could have helped Riley out. Riley was adamant. He said, I saw the thing all the way. Of course, it wasn't the right call.
There's Sparky. He missed it by that much, and he's right.
Yeah, somebody came down to the clubhouse and looked at him. Monitor out there. There you see he misses the swipe tag by about 4 or 5 inches. Riley says you missed him, and Riley, well,
the first angle we saw where it looked like he might have tagged him on the knee, the problem with that was no depth perception on that angle. Then you could see on the subsequent ones that he had in fact missed him.
The glove in the replay with the lens speeds looks like it's out a foot from the glove, and that's that white trail where the ball's actually in the glove from a lot of different angles. So I don't think replay worked when the ball's traveling 95 miles an hour faster.
Plus, it's baseball. Any further intrusion of technology is totally unwelcome. Now I know I've just increased the size of my mailbag. Herbeck. With Brunansky at first. Fouls it off. Here's the interesting thing about the misadventures for Evans at third base. Other than Brookins, for whom he had to hit, Sparky's third basemen are his DHs. Matlock is hurt and questionable. Morrison is in the game as the DH. So he was forced to move Evans across the diamond, and it's really burned him.
Well, there are times when Noakes is catching that he's used Mike Heath. A little bit of second base, third base played short, played some outfield, and of course he catches.
1 for 14 in the series. In the last half of the ninth, Heath is scheduled to lead off, might not bat. Whitaker and then Morrison scheduled to follow.
And remember, Jeff Reardon, after the argument, in the dugout or clubhouse for another extended period of time. Stopped throwing quite a while ago. Came in with his jacket, presuming that he's coming in the game. Did this yesterday and didn't look like he came out with his top-notch stuff.
Full count.
Jeff. I would think coming in today, he's going to work a few more breaking balls in rather than just try and throw the heat. Found out in this light here, even at night, you can see his fastball better than the dome.
Travel comes in. Herbeck's frustrations continue. Hold Noakes back and hope to get a man on base and maybe use Noakes to bat for Morrison. Grubb is 39 years old. He's been with San Diego, Cleveland, and Texas. Now in his 5th year with the Tigers. Reardon starts him with a strike. Grubb hit just .202 this year in 64 at-bats after a big 86 that saw him hit .333 with 13 homers in part-time duty. 1-1. Liner to center. The tying run will come to the plate.
Will come on and run for Grubb. It's a different move. With Sparky feeling that Grubb could either take a base on ball. Grubb had a big year last year as a DH. This year used very sparingly, so Sparky used the speed of Sheridan out at first base. And of course, as Bob said, he still has Noakes.
For the moment, Morrison is on the on-deck circle. But Noakes will be ready. Whitaker tries to push a bunt. Gagne wasn't fooled. He was breathing right down his neck. Had it been fair, that had no chance to be successful.
If these two men could stay on, Morrison's there because he would probably sacrifice to get him in the scoring position, but he still saves Noakes for later. If Whitaker doesn't get out, you'll see Noakes in a hurry. He'll run two runs fast with a possible home run.
Whitaker has reached the seats 16 times. Plus once in the playoff. Reardon's ahead of him 1-2. Still 1-2.
It's hard to set a guy like Whitaker up. He's throwing him breaking ball, and just when you think you've got him set up for a fastball, Lou is such a good fastball hitter, he can still turn on you. You can see how defensive he was in the breaking ball, just at the end trying to wait and just flicked it off. He's got fastball in his mind at all times.
Twins last of the ninth. And a pop-up. Gagne has it. Morrison heads for the dugout, and Noakes comes out to bat for him. With the Homer Hankies and the Whistles. many Tiger fans are hoping to salute a homer here.
Another fastball hitter in Matt Noakes. Reardon may try and start him out with breaking stuff. Make him hit that.
Unless Noakes hits into a double play, the Tigers have 2 cracks at it with home run hitters from the left side. Gibson is next. Ball 1. Off-speed it in there.
That's the weapon Reardon has when he pitches a few days in a row that he's had to come up with when the edge is off his fastball. The curve. Noakes had breaking ball in his mind, took a fastball, looked like it was right down the middle.
Oh, that didn't miss by much.
He went with a different kind of breaking ball. He'd been snapping it off inside. This one he starts outside to try and backdoor it. And he made a pretty good pitch, and that is an awfully close pitch to take for a hitter. 1-2.
You know what that pitch is?
Strike.
You're right.
Sure looked like it. Right when Laundry called for the backdoor breaking ball.
2-2. Strike 3.
Ooh, he had something on that fastball, but again, Noakes thinking curveball with the curves that Reardon's thrown.
It's all up to Gibson, who has an RBI single and a walk, officially 1 for 3 in the game.
Now, if you were Kirk Gibson and sitting in the on-deck circle in the dugout and saw Reardon try and get ahead of Whitaker with breaking balls, Noakes with breaking balls, and even though he's a fastball hitter, Gibson may take one shot, look for first pitch curveball. Let's see if Lawton and Reardon thinking the same way and they go the other way.
Foul back toward us.
Fastball out of the strike zone.
The Twins are 2 strikes from taking a stranglehold on this series.
Wow. The Sparky's team, if this holds up, having to win 2 of the 3 in the Metrodome.
1-1. Of course, they'll remind themselves that they won 4 in a row from Toronto when it counted. The last one in Toronto, then 3 straight here last weekend. And they'll try and cite themselves by saying Toronto was a better club. 1 strike away.
It's interesting. He hadn't thrown him a curveball yet. When he threw that fastball by Matt Noakes, it was almost as if it triggered Reardon saying, man, I've got it today. And he's throwing as hard as he was in the Metrodome the other day.
Strike 3, that's it. Got him looking with the curveball. And the life of a reliever. Yesterday he didn't. Tonight Reardon did. Darrell Evans. Put the word professional beneath that man's name. But this might be the most nightmarish evening of his long and distinguished career.
A nice relief job by Berringer, setting it up for Reardon to come in and polish it off.
Puckett embraces Reardon. Kirby got him started with a home run tonight. The Twins have won 3 of the first 4. And we'll be back to Tiger Stadium in just a minute.